Don't ever be afraid of change. If you were afraid of change, you would have never done anything in your life.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast, helping appraisers increase their efficiency, quality, and make more money. Here's the guy who makes it his life's mission to create value for real estate appraisers nationwide. Your host and the Appraiser Coach, Dustin Harris.
Welcome back to the program, everybody. Dustin Harris hanging out once again with you. Want to do a quick shout out to each of our two sponsors today. A la Mode. A la Mode, of course, is helping appraisers to be more efficient at what they do. Find out more at alamode.com or call them 800-ALA-MODE. OREP Insurance is my E&O of choice. There's a reason for that. I can't wait to get into just a little bit as to why I've chosen OREP, but you can find out more by going to their website at orep.org. That's orep.org. I want to welcome back to the program my good friend, Diana Jacob. Diana is a appraiser in the state of Louisiana. She's worked for over 30 years in the states of Louisiana, Texas, and even North Carolina. She has experience with single-family, multifamily, commercial property. She's done work as a reviewer, a consultant for litigation, served on the Texas Appraisal Licensing Certification Board as a mentor, by the way, for many years. And she's also an AQB certified USPAP instructor. And she's my friend. Welcome back, Diana.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here, and I'm looking forward. Now, I got a little bit of a scratchy voice, so
I hear that.
I'm going to ask for forgiveness up front, and that way I can get by with what I need to get by with.
You know what? We can hear you just fine, my dear. I'm so glad that you're on the program again. Crazy market right now. Have you ever seen anything like this, my friend?
I actually have. I am amused at people's shock because I've been in this since before certification. And when I decided to become an appraiser, our interest rates were at double digits. And so I never even foresaw as a practicing appraiser that they would go down to single digits. How exciting. If you start looking at the history of where all of this has come from, you'll realize that everything in life is up and down, up and down, up and down. So yes, I've seen it in the 80s. I've seen it in the 90s. I saw it in the 2000s with the housing crash, and here we are. Surprise, surprise, low interest rates, high demand, prices going up. Why is that a surprise?
Yeah,
I don't get that. Undersupply, high demand. Does that impact price? Of course it does. Why is everybody surprised?
Well, probably because we have a short attention span. And most of us are looking at, 2020 and 2021, and we're thinking, oh my gosh, we're so busy, we can't stand it. And all of a sudden it's like the brakes are on, and it's, for some, it's a little bit scary out there.
It is. And I hear appraisers a lot tell me, I have a friend that's an appraiser here that I, on a side note, I play cards on Friday night. So, and the appraiser calls in, okay, I have never experienced this before. This appraiser is much younger than I am. So, what does this mean? And I said, it means you're going to still get to work because you're an appraiser. And the appraiser said, I don't understand. And I said, well, for a while there, you're gonna check your phone to see if it's still working, because when everybody's trying to adjust, there's a gigantic slowdown in the business. But then when everybody realizes that there's a need for foreclosure work because of this period, then they call you. And so I said, you just have to keep your eyes on the prize. You have to keep your ear to the ground. You have to be sensitive to the changes. But the good news is there is no recession for appraisers. We just keep going. And so don't be afraid of it. Don't ever be afraid of change. If you were afraid of change, you would have never done anything in your life. You'd have just stood there. So yes, I've seen it before.
Well, one of the things, Diane, I really appreciate you taking that perspective, because I think, when we as appraisers kind of freak out a little bit, where's our volume? Am I going to be able to make my own mortgage, much less help other people to get theirs? We sometimes forget to step back and realize that if it weren't for change, we wouldn't need appraisers, because value would be steady.
That is correct.
Yeah. Yeah. So unfortunately, I don't know if it's unfortunate. Let me, that being said, right? So let's put that aside for a second. Because of change, appraisers are needed. And I'm not going to use the word unfortunately, but I am going to say appraisers need to understand and feel the pressure, if you will, of becoming the local expert. In other words, making the right adjustments. Let's talk about that for just a second.
Yes. Yes. I think we learned a little bit about talking about change and adjustments in market conditions when we were first introduced to the most ridiculously developed form of all, the 1004 MC, that had no sense, no rhyme, no reason. But what it did teach us is that we needed to explain what was going on. And in a changing market, I think what appraisers hopefully will come to terms with is that when things are going down or up, they don't go up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. It's not, 15%. Oh my goodness, 15%. We're up to 15% today. Oh, tomorrow, we're down to 3%. We're down. No, it doesn't happen like that.
Right.
They're
trending.
This is an attempt to get a hold of inflation. And what is so unique about this particular time is the fact, we fell in prices. Was it 27% between 2006 and 2012? Well, when you look at the median price of an existing home, which is up 38% since March of 2020, and mortgage rates are up 3% in the past 8 months. Now, what we have is a combination of something going on that is now causing affordability to deteriorate faster than we've ever seen it in previous times.
Right.
That doesn't change what the challenge is of the appraiser. And that is to say, we're either in an aspirational market that goes up beyond any explanation, or we're in a downward what some people like to call correction. I don't know that it's even a correction. It's just a measure of impact on where we are. And when it comes to adjustments, you, the appraiser, need to find either a software that will help you, and there's a lot out there, but you need to be able to stop the clock, and you need to say, okay, 2 years ago, everybody wanted a house and everybody's prices were going up, so much so that we were chasing after adjustments in time just to try to make it understandable. We didn't know what to do with the cost. We were using sources of cost that weren't even able to track the swift changes of the shortage of materials, and we had the pandemic, and everybody figured with the pandemic, housing market's just going to crash. Well, it did the opposite. It went up.
Yep.
So here's what I would say. Don't get caught up in trying to understand the causes. We can do history lessons all day long. What we know is that it's a cyclical market that we're in. And right now, we are in a market that is unusual because we have, employment that's still, I've never seen anything like this, where people are saying, yeah, I think next week I'll go look for a job. It's like, well, that's pretty lackadaisical. Well, they don't worry about it because they can get a job on any given day, because there's just such a demand for people. But what the pandemic taught us and what appraisers now need to be mindful of is that mankind knows how to survive. And in the pandemic, mankind figured out how to work from home. Mankind figured out that their skill set had a value. And if it didn't, they went out and got another skill set because they were working from home. And so now we have this new respect. People, mankind, the buyers, the sellers, everybody looks at things a little differently now. Does that affect the appraiser? No, it just tells the why. All you as the appraiser are charged to do is say, I'm in this period, which is moving. It's a moving target. We don't know how long it's going to move this way. But for right now, the measure between then and now is X%. I was reading a statistic that talked about the rise in prices and how there is a prediction that we will have a rise. But when we talk about the rise, if inflation keeps falling with large numbers, and Americans keep remaining employed, it raises the chance that maybe we will avoid the R word, the recession that nobody wants to talk about. I don't know why they don't want to say the word. It's not a dirty word. It's just a descriptor of a change in time. When we look at that and we look at a low unemployment and we look at the higher interest rates, then the measure is going to be supply and demand, as it always is. And what's the affordability? Now, I find that probably the most interesting of all is the affordability, because people are working from home and that has changed a lot of things. And so all I have to do is I have to just measure from then to now. Now, I think demographics, and a lot of people get nervous about the word demographics, but I think those income levels are really important. I was reading an article, it's called The Hierarchy of Financial Needs. And you start with your basic needs and you try to work all the way up to legacy. Your basic needs are food, housing, transportation, daily expenses. Has that changed? It has.
Yeah.
Does that impact what people are paying for houses? It does. Only your next level to move up is financial safety. And at that point, that's where you have an emergency fund. You say that only 47% of the grown-ups, the adults, have enough money to cover 3 months worth of expenses.
Wow.
Okay. If that's the key, if that's where we are, then do the math. Most of what you are dealing with as a residential appraiser is falling under that basic need. What is that level of income? Now, I've always used this as a measure, and it's always worked for me. Simple ratio, 3 times 1. 3 times the annual household income is the maximum affordability of the house. So where are people in your income?
Yeah, good point.
Do you know that? And if you know that, then you can tell whether they can afford that house or not. Do people pay more than they should? They did for a while. I've said that before. I had 2 grandchildren, married, trying to find houses. And I was like, hang on. They're like, no, Grandmama, we're not doing that. We're going for it now because we don't want to pay those higher interest rates. We know that. We're willing to pay more. And I said, do you understand how long it's going to take for you to make up this high price you paid? Because if prices are expected to fall somewhat, 27% is where the ultimate projection is, then how long does it take you if you overpaid by 30% to make that up? How long do you have to live there? So what is an appraiser supposed to do? An appraiser measures today, and they measure whether or not a year ago today 2 years ago today, did that change? Right now we can say yes, but not in the going up, it's in the going down. So measure that, in the 80s when everything was just crashing, and in the 90s when changes were happening so fast, we were making negative adjustments if a sale was that we called a comp was 30 days old, because we knew it was just so steady going down. This is sharply declining as they wanted it to. How long will it last? I don't know. I don't know what the election's going to bring.
Right. Yeah, a lot of those things are kind of up in the air. We're talking with Diana Jacob. Diana, I'm going to give your voice a rest a little bit and talk a little bit about our sponsors. When we come back, though, I would like you to share with us some of your wisdom from being a mentor there in your local area, and what recommendations, specific recommendations, you would make to appraisers in the crazy times that we live in. First, I want to pause and remind each of us that we are sponsored by some great companies. Diana talked about tools that will allow you and help you to be better appraisers. One of those, of course, is Alamode. It is the tool that I've used for many, many years, many decades, really. And it has continued to assist me to be the very best appraiser that I can be. Folks, check them out by going to their webpage, alamode.com, or you can pick up the phone and call them, of course, at 800-ALAMODE. How often do you think about your E&O insurance? Well, honestly, hopefully not very much, right? If it's on your brain all the time, you might be in trouble. But at least once a year, you do your renewal. Do you think about it at that time, or do you simply just sign the paperwork and send it off again? I challenge you to think about it this year. When you sign up for your E&O, ask yourself the question, am I with the best? Well, folks, I can tell you for certain, if you're not with OREP, then the answer to that is no. Check them out by going to orep.org. That's OREP.org. Welcome back to the program. We're talking with my good friend, Diana Jacob. Welcome back, Diana.
Thank you.
I really appreciate. I know you're struggling with your voice today. We hear you loud and clear, but thank you for plowing through. Your wisdom is always welcomed here on the program. You've talked a little bit about the market and the current situation that we find ourselves in. We've talked a little bit about the appraiser. It really is time for an appraiser to shine, right? I mean, this is really where we prove to the world that we are worth our weight in gold, because a computer can't tell some of the same things that an appraiser can tell. AVMs don't work all the time. What specific recommendations, suggestions, wisdom could you share with us, Diana, as a mentor to appraisers?
Every year people wash their windows, they get the seasons ready, they purge, they throw things away. Good. To look at your appraisal reports and ask yourself, is that statement still true today? People get templates and they get very connected to their templates.
Right.
It's like a harness on a child. They just hold on to it, hoping the child won't go too far. I've seen, I got a phone call from an appraiser who said, I'm very angry at this lender because they want me to change this comment in my appraisal report, and that comment has always worked for me in the past. Mm-hmm. And here's who I got it from. And I said, when did you get that comment? I took that class 11 years ago. I said, okay, you're using a comment that's 11 years old on a form that's 17 years old. Is that correct? Is that what you're telling me?
I know where this is going.
And he then said, listen, I have you on speakerphone because my trainee is my son. And I said, well, good for you, but you may want to take me off speakerphone because I'm about to make fuss with you. And he said, You can be kind. I said, no, I can't be kind. I said, I cannot believe that you're calling me. And honestly, I was in the grocery store between the pasta and the tomato sauce on both sides. And I'm talking out loud on this phone. These people are walking by looking at me, like I'm crazy. And I said, why do appraisers think that once they have a comment that will protect them from here on? Do I think you need a template? Of course I do. But this is the time to look at that template and ask yourself, is this still true? And a lot of times what you'll find is that it's not. So my recommendation to appraisers is get out that old 17-year-old form that you are still sending every day. And find those 11-year-old comments and change them. I wish we could treat our appraisal reports like letters to our loved ones, because if we were writing letters to our loved ones, we would tell them exactly how we feel. and I really do think that's what appraisers need to do. I don't know. I get calls a lot about, how would I say this? And they'll give me the situation and I'll see, okay, you explained that very well to me.
Yeah, just write it down.
And I was like, so why can't you just say that?
Right.
And they said, well, but you say it better. I said, I'm not living there. That's not my appraisal assignment. I can hear your conversation. Now, when you get defensive and say, I've always done it this way, that's not going to work. But if you are really telling the story, if you are writing the letter to your loved one about where you are in your journey, they will appreciate it. Because it's all about them making decisions. Do we as appraisers really understand what their problem is? And I think we miss that a lot. So many of us do lending work. Well, lenders are about risk. They want to make loans, but they also don't want any risk involved, which of course is absurd because we all have risk.
Sure.
But if you can speak to what they need to know in order to judge the risk from their parameters, then you have served your client well.
Diana Jacob, great wisdom as always. Thank you for taking time to share with us here at the Appraiser Coach Podcast. You are welcome, and I mean this sincerely. Anytime, please reach out to me. Don't make me come find you. We always appreciate your wisdom here, and I hope that the listeners will take it to heart, and we will all be better appraisers for it. Thank you, my friend.
Welcome.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach Podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.